Well, joining us now is BC's Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions, Adrian Dix. Minister, thank you for joining us.
Great to be on the show, Michael.
Now, listen, I want to begin with Premier Eby because we've heard him say that, he's not really treated this pipeline idea very seriously, in part because it has no private sector proponent. But if this decision by Alberta to put forward an application does lead to a private proponent of the project, would your government be more open to the idea of a pipeline?
Well, that's a hypothetical start. So let's start with the facts. There's no proponent. That's why Alberta is playing this role. There's no route. There's no private money. It's all public money that we can see. There's, given the cost of this venture compared to the much less expensive cost of other ventures, there's almost certainly no take-or-pay contracts, which are essential to this. And finally, of course, this would require, in British Columbia, getting rid of the tanker ban on the North Coast. The tanker ban has been in place for some time, and which is essential, which is foundational for tens of billions of dollars of investment we're making here, as well as foundational to people who live on the North Coast. So, this is a political project, and of course, we'd much rather talk about the dozens of national projects of national importance in BC that have proponents, that have plans, that have business plans, that have an economic rationale and can go forward. So that's what we'd rather be talking about, because we're driving those initiatives. And by the way, many of those plans benefit the province of Alberta as well.
So there are alternate projects that you outline. Is there at all an openness, though, to hear the arguments in favor of a pipeline, or is it an absolute no?
Oh, look, there is no project unless we're talking about, again, because we've done this once in the last decade, tens of billions of dollars of public money to subsidize this proposal, which is talking about. So if that's the intent of any government, be it Alberta or the federal government or others, they should be clear about that. But that's certainly not the message that I've received from the Federal Energy Minister, Tim Hodgson, or anyone else, who have been very clear that these need to be private sector projects.
Okay. Now, you mentioned alternate projects as opposed to this pipeline. And, Premier Eby has talked about, for example, a national electricity grid or a hydrogen project. But I'm wondering what kind of economic activity that would actually create. Because with an Asian market looking for oil and gas, Alberta makes the argument, the Premier of Alberta makes the argument, that a pipeline to the BC coast would add $20 billion to Canada's GDP. Would the other projects add as much to the national economy?
Michael, I mean, these aren't theoretical projects. LNG projects under construction in BC, $40 to $50 billion in capital expenditure on those projects, and there are more to come. And those projects, of course, because they've largely developed in the northwest of our province, depend on things like the tanker ban. The consent that we've received to proceed with those projects have depended to some degree on that tanker ban. So if you're talking about real projects, we have them, and we have them in droves. We refer you to the North Coast Transmission Line, which will open up mining in our province in the Northwest and do so also in support of clean energy, the transmission of clean electricity to the Northwest region, electricity that they need, on which projects at the Port of Prince Rupert, projects such as Cedar LNG, Indigenous-owned LNG in the Northwest, projects such as more than a dozen mining proposals that have a value of tens of billions of dollars of capex depend. So I appreciate that CPAC and others are paying a lot of attention to this project, which isn't a project. We got lots of projects to talk about too that are real that we need to proceed with, because we need to get things done and get things built in this country, and that's exactly what Premier Eby and we are doing. And we're going to continue to do that.
Well, listen, I would love to speak with you about the other projects more in detail down the road, and we will. We'll find the time. But in the time that I have left right now, what would British Columbia's response be then if, because Alberta is really pressuring Ottawa to do this, if the federal government does name a pipeline to the BC coast as a national project when the second tranche of projects are announced?
Well, look, to do that, they presumably need to do two things. Acknowledge that there would have to be a contribution of tens of billions of dollars of public funds. That's what they'd have to do. And secondly, they'd have to contrary to the wishes of British Columbia and contrary to the wishes of the coastal First Nations, amongst many others, say that they're going to get rid of a tanker ban, which is critical to support our economic activities and critical to the defense and the support of the coast. We're the government of British Columbia. It's our job to protect and promote and grow the BC economy, and it's our job to protect the BC coastline, and we intend to do both.
Minister Adrian Dix, always appreciate the time. Thank you for this.
Great to be on the show, Michael.
Great to always have you. You take care.
Take care.